This is why narcissists avoid sex. I've done a few videos on this already, and they prove to be quite popular. And I've seen that many other YouTubers have been talking about this. And just this topic alone has garnered millions of views. So it's clearly something that a lot of people are going through, who are with narcissists, people who are self-absorbed, lacking empathy, exploitative, grandiose. And they find that the narcissist just doesn't want sex. This appears to be the case a lot of times. And we have to remember, narcissists are dysfunctional. They're not functioning properly or correctly. And yet many of you have this confusion and this expectation for them to desire to have sex with you. When my main concern should be, why are you desiring to have sex with a broken person? Maybe it's because you don't see them that way. You still believe in the fantasy. And of course, it's not always that simple. It's not always that they're just a broken person and they're dysfunctional. People, even narcissists, are more complex than that. And that's what we're going to get into now. So I'd say that the first reason why the narcissist avoids sex with you is due to their sexual dysfunction. So they may be experiencing performance anxiety. And I'm sure many of you who are watching this, you may be thinking, that may be the case for someone else, but not for you. You're a narcissist experiencing performance anxiety. You may be seeing them as a somatic narcissist, and maybe, they always like to show off their body. Maybe they're always talking about sex, or they may seem confident about it. But that's just it. That's only because you're not actually doing it. Yeah, they're confident when they're outside of it, when they're detached from it. But when they're actually immersed in the experience, that's a different story. And the reason why they act so confident, even arrogant about it, is actually just to compensate for their underlying insecurities revolving it. Narcissists are deeply insecure. So if they feel like they're not performing well enough, then yeah, they may avoid sex altogether to protect their ego. It's whatever makes them feel more important. If they feel like they're not going to feel important by having sex with you, then why bother? Because that's the only reason why they're going to do it for. And aside from the performance anxiety, there's also erectile dysfunction, low libido. Remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a sexual therapist. We're talking in general terms about this, about the possibilities. And yeah, the narcissist that you're dealing with may be suffering from a physical issue, like erectile dysfunction. And this is more common than people think. I mean, this affects well over 50% of the population. And even the other 50%, they may just not be dealing with it now. They could be dealing with that later in life. And as well as erectile dysfunction, there's also hormonal imbalances, such as low testosterone, especially male narcissists. And even with women can also suffer from erectile dysfunction. They may have an issue where they're just very dry down there. They're suffering from low libido. And then it can also be a bacterial infection. This can affect a person's sex drive. if they're not getting tested, and if they're cheating, you know, if they're sleeping around, if they're not getting checked. But instead of admitting it to themselves, instead of accepting it, of course, what do they always do? They always project. If there's one thing you can always count on a narcissist to do anytime that they have a problem or issue, they're always going to put it onto you. They're always going to make you feel like it's your fault. And no matter what you do, it's never going to get any better because it's not your problem to fix. Again, other forms of sexual dysfunction may include an addiction to porn or fantasy. Some narcissists turn to pornography or even fantasy scenarios where they have full control, and so they don't have to deal with real life vulnerability. And this can actually reduce a person's interest in actual real life physical intimacy, having an addiction to porn or fantasy, because it gives them a sense of control. And who doesn't want to feel in control? Who doesn't want to feel empowered? And, you know, that's their source of empowerment. And in all fairness, you know, if we look at things from their side, can they experience what they see in porn in real life? Of course, reality can never compete with fantasy. It's impossible. It's just never going to happen. And so many of you find yourself in quite a predicament where you're trying to compete with porn or fantasy, and you're never going to win. You're never going to be able to compete with that. The only way that you can win is by not playing that game. And if you can manage to pull them away from the porn or take them out of the fantasy, which is going to be very difficult because many of them are going to be heavily reliant on it as a sense of security. So, yeah, there's definitely going to be intimacy problems if one of you is excessively watching porn or engaging in fantasy, because reality cannot compete with that. It just can't. But get on to other things. I mean, let's not forget, many narcissists are depressed. They're all suffering from mental health issues. And when a narcissist experiences a narcissistic collapse, when you challenge their false self-image or expose them in some sort of way, they will become depressed and withdrawn. It will cause them to lose sexual interest. They're going to be more interested in sex when they're grandiose, when they feel good about themselves. That's when their libido is going to kick in. But when they're not feeling good about themselves, when they're experiencing a collapse, when just you being you owning yourself is making them feel insecure, then of course, you know, their brain tells them, all right, move away from the source of pain and into a place of safety where they no longer feel threatened. So away from you. But especially covert narcissists, they often experience low moods and a lack of drive, including sexual drive. So if you know that your narcissist is covert, if they're doing things under the radar, it's highly likely that they have an issue with their sexual drive. It's the ones who are overt, the ones who are grandiose, they're the ones who are often hypersexual because they're super confident in themselves. But the ones who are covert, the ones who are hiding, they're usually silently suffering from anxiety or depression, and this affects their libido. They may also have shame around intimacy. They may have unresolved trauma from childhood abuse or neglect. And they can also be childhood conditioning. So they may associate sex with shame, guilt, or emotional danger. They may also be experiencing an identity crisis. They may fear aging or losing attractiveness. As narcissists age, they do tend to feel less attractive, and this affects their self-worth. If a narcissist doesn't feel desired, a very important point to take note of. If a narcissist doesn't feel desired, they will shut down sexually to avoid rejection. So they don't feel good about themselves around you. They feel unattractive. They feel like they're not good enough. And sex is primarily a tool that narcissists use for validation. So if they feel like they're no longer able to use sex to gain admiration, then they may just abandon it altogether rather than them having to face feelings of inadequacy. So aside from the psychological issues, there's also medication or substance abuse. They may be using antidepressants or other medication, and this can dampen libido. But instead of acknowledging that, they will likely blame you instead. Many narcissists often use drugs or alcohol. Substance abuse can heavily impact their libido and performance. And of course, by self-medicating, they will experience sexual side effects, and not in a good way. But a lot of this, it really is childhood sexual trauma or abuse. Many narcissists may have experienced sexual abuse, or they may have been shamed around sexuality as a child. So now they carry a deep subconscious fear or disgust towards sex. As I've spoken about before, they despise the human condition. They feel perfect, they feel ideal when they don't engage in these kinds of things, because otherwise it makes them feel more human. And to them, human is disgusting to them. And also, from the abuse that they experienced in childhood, it may have taught them to dissociate from their bodies. So they're constantly outside of themselves, they're not grounded in their own bodies. So they're not connected to their emotions or needs, they're not thinking about that. They struggle to be present, to emotionally connected during intimacy. And I know many of you may have seen this, even in the rare cases where you do have sex, it's like they just seem bored. They seem out of it. It's like they're physically there, but their mind is somewhere else. And it's not always that they're engaged in fantasy. It's like they're just frozen in time, like they're not really there. And so why would sex interest them if they're not even present in their own bodies? Many of these narcissists, they left themselves a long time ago. They abandoned who they are. But also, some narcissists, they like to use sex to control you by withdrawing it. And even that goes back to their childhood, because something may have been withheld from them as a child, so they learned this from their parents. But also, it might have been something that they learned from a past relationship. Maybe sex was withheld from them, or it was used to manipulate or harm them. Maybe they were sexually exploited. So that's another thing that, of course, is going to make them turn away from sex, turn away from the pain, because it's pain, it's not pleasure for them. It brings up all sorts of guilt, shame, fear, insecurity. And another thing I should mention, I mean, in this day and age, sexual content is everywhere. You turn on the TV, you listen to a song, you watch a movie. Sex is everywhere these days. You go on Instagram and everyone's taking their clothes off. It never used to be this way. So many kids these days are experiencing early exposure to inappropriate content or roles. And of course, this has been going on for the last few decades. So the odds are that the narcissist you were dealing with was likely exposed to something that was sexually inappropriate content as a child. And sometimes this can result in hypersexualization or emotional confusion. If they were exposed to sexual situations too early, such as porn, adult conversations, or inappropriate behavior from their caregivers, this can lead to confusion about boundaries, intimacy, and self-worth. So a lot of this all stems from early sexual abuse, because they don't know, they weren't taught this in childhood about boundaries, about separation. And so they have a lot of confusion there. But even when a narcissist does want to have sex, it's not that they want to have sex. It's more they just want to use sex as a transaction. They may see sex as a way to get what they want. They don't ever see it as an expression of love or connection. You're never going to get that from a narcissist. From someone who's self-absorbed or lacks empathy, it's never going to happen. They do not love, they do not connect. They will use it to make you attached to them so that they can get what they want from you. Because again, that's exactly what was done to them in their childhood. It's what they saw being modeled when they were growing up. So a lot of this, it really stems from parental neglect or enmeshment. They were enmeshed with a parent until they developed distorted views of intimacy, which created guilt or discomfort around real adult sexual relationships. And when someone has experienced neglect or rejection in childhood, this typically results in anxious or avoidant attachment styles, and even a desire to see an anxious or avoidant attachment style in their partner. So it's all the result of neglect, rejection in childhood. And this is where you will see them either clinging through love bombing or just shutting down completely, including sexually, or wanting you to do the same when things get too real, because they can't ever come into reality. They want to avoid reality. They want to stay far away from it. And that's exactly what it does, when you want sex from the narcissist, you are pulling them into reality. It's getting real. And they don't like that. They don't want to be vulnerable. Because what happens is, when they are sexually involved with you, what do you think is happening? If you think about things that have happened to them before, maybe they were abused in childhood. Maybe they were sexually abused or exploited in a past relationship. So what do you think happens when they return to that space, even if it's with another person? They are then directly confronting those childhood wounds, those past traumas. If they are being vulnerable with you, or if you're pushing them for them to be vulnerable, to be intimate, they are then confronting those wounds with you. And they do not want to go into that space. if a narcissist ever wants to use sex, like such as one that's grandiose, they want to use it as a form of escapism, disconnection. They do not want to use it to confront the pain, the unresolved trauma. And, you know, they may see you as the type of person who maybe you are a bit too real. Maybe you are too much in reality. So they know you're going to push them for vulnerability. You're going to push them for connection. And that's going to be a very painful thing for them to go through. And they typically withdraw from pain. They're not going to go into it. So they're going to put that pain onto you. You're going to be the one who's left feeling hurt. They're going to dump their emotional and sexual trauma onto you, often through withholding behaviors, things that they have learned in childhood. So this is it. This is why they do what they do. This is why they avoid having sex with you. So I hope that this has cleared the mystery surrounding this. I do know that there are a lot of oddballs in the live chats in this one. And, you know, it makes sense because a lot of their issues, it stems from childhood sexual abuse. And even their sadistic nature, as Professor Sam Vakner has mentioned in one of his videos, it's driven by their sex drive. So a lot of their issues do revolve around sex, and this is why they're often hypersexual, or they have a low libido. And, you know, you can feel it. You can feel, you know, sometimes this person is on the prowl, maybe not sexually, but in some sort of way to suffocate you, to contain you. It's like a predator. Because they see it as a source of power. And of course, they would see it as a source of power. Because for them, it's emotional and sexual detachment. They're not immersed in it. They're broken people. So, of course, they're going to have the power over you in that situation because they don't need it. They don't need sex. Many of them don't even like it. They just use it because they know that's what you need as a human. So, yeah, they manipulate, they exploit that. And yeah, they have a very childlike attitude when it comes to sex, you know, sexual immaturity. Because they're just a child in an adult's body. Everything's just a joke to them. But yeah, this is a mature discussion. And, you know, I know many of you are going through this right now. And what I should say is that if this is causing you emotional distress, this should be a deal breaker for you. If your sexual needs are not being met, that should be enough for you to walk away. Because, you know, just like food, water, shelter, sex is a biological human need. It's not something that you can live without. I mean, you can try and live without it, but it's going to destroy you psychologically. It's really going to have an effect on you. So this should be a deal breaker for you. If this person has issues with sex, you've got to walk away. You know, unless, of course, they're willing to confront these issues, if they're willing to improve, if they're willing to do something about it, then of course, you know, give them a chance. You know, we're not the narcissists here. We don't walk away from someone who's genuinely trying to be better and seeking help. That's what they will do with you. But as for us, you know, if we're dealing with someone who's slightly narcissistic, but they recognize that they have a problem and they're seeking support, then give that person a chance, you know, give them a bit more time. But, you know, that's the thing. How long are you willing to wait? If this issue has been going on for weeks, months, you know, it must be very frustrating for you. But this is how you know that they do have some kind of sexual problem, because they they separate this from other things. So you may not be getting your sexual needs met with this person. To them, that's just a joke. That's something that they can just laugh at you for. But then if it comes to you having not eaten, then it's a different story. And it's because maybe it's a reflection of their own experiences. But this is no joke. This is no joke at all. I mean, you know, you are in a relationship. You are this person's caretaker, their personal therapist. You're giving out your energy every day to the point of exhaustion, and you're getting nothing back in return. Of course, gradually that's going to deplete you, destroy you. But then at the same time, having sex with a narcissist intensifies the trauma bonds. And the truth is, in my experience, and I think many of you will agree with this, having regular sexual activity with a narcissist is more damaging than them withholding it from you. It's even more damaging from what I've experienced. So really, you know, the solution is always just to get out of there, to get as far away from them as you can. That's going to be the best choice for your health. So I hope this helped you. I hope this validated your experience for those of you who are going through this. And if this was good for you, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let's start a discussion. Let's remove the shame surrounding this topic. Let's talk about it. Let's be open about it. And if you'd like to book a one-on-one with me, just go to my website. It's narcsurvivor.co.uk. Your donations are greatly appreciated, no matter how small. Donate by going to paypal.me/narcsurvivor. And also you can follow me on my Instagram. It is Narc Survivor YouTube. Thank you all for joining me on another Narc Survivor live video. Live from the balcony. And I will talk to you in another video very soon.